Hi students, in this video I'm going to show you how to use MIDI in BandLab for composing. So when you first open up and you get this box that asks you what you want to do, you're going to click on Instruments this time. So this time we're not using loops, we're going to use this one here called Instruments. And what this will open up for you is a blank track with a piano keyboard will automatically come up. And that keyboard, you can use your mouse to actually play, like so. Or as you can see, there are computer letters down here, which means you can actually play on your computer. So once you have a little tune that you like or a little riff, or you have some idea of what you want to compose, you click on the record button. And there you go. I have recorded a very brief little ditty. Now, just the same as when you were using loops, you can loop it like so, or you can trim it. In this case, I'm going to trim it because I didn't start playing straight away, and so I want it to be just the region that has notes in it. So I have just composed using the keyboard. I've composed a little riff here. Now, at the moment, the sound that you can hear is a piano. So if we have a listen. But if I decide I actually don't want it to be a piano, I don't have to go back and do all of that again. I just go into here. You see where I clicked? Right here, Instrument on Piano. And I can choose something else. So we all know that I like brass. So I'm going to go into brass. And then I'm going to choose my favorite. I'm going to choose a trumpet. So now when I play it, you'll hear it's the same thing, but it's going to sound like a trumpet. Sort of like a trumpet, an electronic sounding trumpet. Now, the other thing is that if I decide, look, I like this, but I just want to fix it up a little bit, I can go into this spot down here, bottom left, MIDI editor. So you click on MIDI editor, and that actually brings up what we call the piano roll, and you can see the notes that are there. So at the moment, there's a pencil that's been highlighted. If you look here, there's a pencil. And with that pencil, that means that you can actually draw notes in. Okay, so you can see the notes that I've drawn in. Then if you go into those notes, you can see that you can bring up those arrows and you can make those notes longer or shorter if that's what you'd like to do. Like so. The other thing you can obviously do is you can move them. So if you go into the left again and go to the arrow, which is for selecting notes, you can move your notes around. So you have a lot of capacity for editing your MIDI notes in here. And you can add, you can take things away. If you decide that you actually want to go a little bit longer, you just simply drag it longer, like up here, like you would normally drag it longer. And that's really useful because when you, if you wanted to create a drone, you may potentially choose a nice, lovely low note and just keep dragging it to make it a very, very, very long, low drone. So at the moment, what I can hear now is a bit of trumpet. The drone. So that's how I have created the MIDI. So you can see that I have drawn in some notes with my pencil. I've edited some notes with the arrow, using the arrow to edit. I have changed the notes, the sound to be different from a piano that it initially was to a trumpet, and that happens in the instrument box down here on the left. I actually can't click on that at the moment because of the recording device that I'm using, but you click on instrument and that is where you can bring up instruments to change the sound. And of course, then if you want to add a new track to that, you quite simply just go to add track, and the same thing happens. You add an instrument track. So there's the instrument track, and that's what it comes up looking like. You can click on instrument, or you can click on MIDI editor. And with your MIDI editor, this is telling you what the notes are, just in case you're not quite sure what the notes are, so that you've got an indication. And like I said, you can change the instrument by going into instrument. You don't have to stick with the one instrument. So if I decided I wanted to change this again, you can easily just jump into instruments and change it. The one other thing that you can also do in here, of course, is automation. So just like you could use automation for volume with using loops, you can use automation for volume when you do MIDI. But I'm going to show you one other thing that I'd like you to know about too, and that's something called panning. So when you click on automation and the line comes up, and we know about that line, you can click on where it says volume, and instead of volume, we're going to use what's called panning. What panning means is that you can move the sound so that it sounds like it's moving from one side to the other side. So it's an excellent effect to use if you perhaps want to have a sound that's maybe like a bird flying past. It will make a whooshing sound. You can make it sound like it's whooshing from, say, the left to the right, like it's going straight past you. So that's what panning does. So if you can see what I'm doing here, this should sound very much like it's moving from one side across to the other side. Let's see if we can make that sound right. It's not very clear in this particular instance because my recording or my composition is not great, but you will certainly get the idea of it when you start composing more seriously. So panning, very, very useful composition tool in BandLab to make it sound like it's moving from one side to the other. So you can actually make it sound like something is moving, or moving across a room, or moving across the landscape. So that's how you use MIDI. MIDI is quite different from using loops or recordings because they are just like using notes.